We'll get going with the next presentation here at our office today. We have the honor to have Handicare with us, CEO Johan and CFO Pernilla Lindén. A warm welcome to you guys, and please go ahead with your presentation.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good to be here. My name is Johan. I've been the CEO of Handicare now since April this year. Prior to that, I was a board member from 2014 and onwards, so I know the company quite well, and I stepped in this spring, as I said. Today, what we have in store is a short presentation on Handicare, and then we hope to get a nice Q&A session at the end. What we thought we would walk through is first give you the key investment highlights as we see it from the management side. After this, talk about the very good structural growth that we have had over the past several years and that we also foresee to have in the future. After this, I will go through a little bit the operational priorities that we have in the business right now, after which I will reintroduce Pernilla and she will be talking about the financial development of the group. But just perhaps before we start, I just wanted to give a short introduction on the company for those of you who perhaps don't know us so well. So Handicare last year had revenues of some 230 million euros. The bulk of this is coming from the business that we call accessibility, which essentially is a stairlift business that is a product and a solution catered for the elderly population that allows them to stay longer at their homes with their loved ones, as opposed to perhaps ending up in institutional care because they have problems with their mobility. So these products allow you to live longer together with your loved ones, with your family, and stay in your beloved house for as long as possible, even though you get mobility disabilities. So that's the biggest portion of the business. The second portion is the patient handling business, which also is dedicated to creating independence in the mobility of our customers. This can be in a home environment or in a hospital environment with different type of lifting devices that we produce and solutions that we offer. Finally, we have a vehicle accessibility business, which is dedicated also for people with mobility needs in getting in and out of the vehicles. Clearly today, the biggest business is the accessibility business, which is the stairlift business. It accounts for 70% of all our revenues, for 90% of all our profits, and is also the clear focus area for the group. If we look at the geographical spread of the business today, some 70% of the business is from the European markets, 30% from North America. And in the accessibility business, which is the biggest and the fastest growing business, we have a very clear number one or number two position in Europe. We are a number three or a number four, so a bit more of a challenger in the North American market. But I'm very happy to say that this has, for the past several years, been a market where we have had double-digit growth, and this we are very determined to continue. So we believe that the North American market is a particularly interesting one for the accessibility business. On the patient handling side, we are solely focused on North America today. So Canada and the United States, where we have a number two position in Canada and a number 3 to 4 position in the US. Vehicle accessibility is only a Norwegian business today, where we are the market leader. I promised to talk about the investment highlights, and I think the first one, which is important to understand, is that we have, over the past several years, had a very kind of strong underlying growth trend in the accessibility business. We are quite convinced that this trend will continue, and I will in a short while go through what the driving factors of this growth are. So it's just important to understand that in the key business, very good organic growth opportunities. These are very well intact. On top of that, there are also inorganic growth opportunities when we look at potential add-on acquisitions, etc. Secondly, we believe that we have created now a platform which has good operating leverage, which means as we grow, the margins will improve even further than the growth rate. This platform that we have built has been now trimmed even further thanks to the Lift Up program, which I will shortly talk about. So we believe that as the revenue comes back, there will be good margins coming out of this growth. Also, we have over the past 18 months showed that we really mean business with our focus. We are divesting and moving away from areas that we deem to be of lesser importance and less attractive to us, and we are focusing on the areas where we feel that we have the highest return. Clearly, accessibility is one such area. The geographical focus is also clear. It's Europe, it's North America. Now, on the accessibility side, since we have been in this business for decades and decades, we have a very strong brand name, we have a good quality, and we have a very good reputation in this market, and that is what we really want to build on for the next several years. As a result of the divestments that we have carried out, we have also strengthened the balance sheet. On top of that, we have good cash flow in the business. So I think all in all, these 6 factors here show a little bit why Handicare could be considered an interesting investment opportunity. It's also fair to say that we are a little bit in the midst of a transformation. At the moment of the IPOs a few years back, accessibility only accounted for 48% of the revenues, and you could say that at the time we had 4 businesses. Over the past 18 months, we have conducted a strategic review, we have divested businesses, we have scaled down businesses, and we have focused the growth on accessibility. So as a result of that, the accessibility or the stairlift business accounts for 70% of our total revenues, 90% of the profits, and this trend will continue. The reason for this is that accessibility is the fastest growing area, and clearly also when it comes to inorganic opportunities, M&A, etc., capital will be allocated mainly to this area in order to drive growth for the future. So you should expect the accessibility share of Handicare to continue to grow. It's not only about focus, it's also about improving margins and increasing the returns for Handicare and for you as shareholders. In order to get there, this past spring we launched a program called the Lift Up program, which is a efficiency program dedicated to really take stock on the fact that we are an accessibility company. So what we have done, we have streamlined the organization, we have cut down any type of duplication within the group. We were perhaps a bit organized like a conglomerate. Those days are over. We have streamlined resources, we have cut down on overhead, we have cut down on certain areas within patient handling, and we have put really all the focus on strengthening and focusing on the accessibility business. This was the first step of the program called Focus and Simplify. The second focus is to further improve margins by working on procurement, on a procurement program, working on select pricing measures. When this is in place, we will further have improved the operating leverage of the business. And after this, it's really all about pushing for more top line when we see that we have the really kind of a good operating leverage in the business. All these actions in total will yield an EBITDA improvement in 2021 of some 8 million euros. Since the program already is well on its way, we will already this calendar year see 3 to 4 million euros of EBITDA improvement in for the 2020 for the year 2020. The restructuring costs related to this were also 8 million euros. Those were taken in conjunction with the Q2 report. And so the program is well on its way. With this, if we just then summarize the kind of priority areas, executing the program, the Lift Up program, priority number 1. Priority number 2 is to now put focus on accelerating growth within accessibility. Thirdly, strengthen the platform further, the operational platform. With this, we mean our factory footprint that we have. There is further automation steps to take. These we are carrying out as we speak. When this is done, I think we will already be in 2021, and at that time I think it's more interesting to start looking at activating some of the M&A dialogues and possibilities that we see, but this will most likely then be small accretive acquisitions in the area of accessibility. If you allow me, I wanted to say a few words about the growth, because I think there are not so many businesses that can look back and say that over the past 8 years we have grown organically 7% per annum. But within Handicare accessibility, this is a fact. Of course, now we have a COVID year, so this year will be an exception. But we believe that the past 8 years have been actually quite representative of the potential that we have in this business, and we expect this growth to come back. The reason for this growth increase and this good organic growth is that the demographic development, the share of elderly people above 65 continues to increase. That increases at roughly a few % a year. On top of that, there is a clear demand and interest on behalf of the elderly to stay at home for as long as you can, as opposed to ending up in institutional care. Also for society as a whole, there is a clear cost benefit in having people more in a home care setting, living in their houses as opposed to ending up in institutional care. All these are factors that are driving the growth that we have seen of the past several years, and as I said, we expect this to continue, and as I said, now with our Lift Up program, we expect this growth to come with better margins for Handicare as well. A few words about our operational priorities. We see that we have a good market growth backing us. Now it's all about making sure that we continue on this growth path that we have seen over the past several years. In order to get there, we need to continue our efforts to work on kind of facilitating the fact that it's easy to do business with Handicare. This can be by way of digitalization, by way of cutting down further on lead times, by really kind of being the preferred choice of our dealers, of our customers. We also want to drive dealer growth. There are still areas where we have a bit of a white spot on our map, where we could be more present, where we could have more dealer coverage. This we are working on. I think the product suite we have as such is quite complete and good, but as always, there are some areas where we want to improve as well. And finally, and I think this is very, very important, we want to win in the US, and I'll tell you shortly what this means for us. The US, for the past 4 years, has been a fantastic growth story. We've been growing 17% CAGR over the past 4 years. This is a great number, and we hope and we are determined to make sure that this continues. In order to do that, we need to continue to expand our dealer network. We need to continue to kind of in a structured way work with our dealers so that we really build them up and we make them successful while working with us. We also need to grow further in a couple of the bigger customer portfolios in the US, such as the VA. And I think importantly, we need to make sure that we can compete on equal terms on the US, which means that we need to offer exactly the same type of short lead times that the competition can. And this is the reason why the board took the decision in June this year for us to establish local production of stair lifts in the US next year. So when we come to the summer of 2021, we will have own production on the US soil. With that, I will hand over to Pernilla, who will walk through the financial highlights, and then we are happy to take some Q&As.
Thank you, Johan.
Thank you.
So if we're looking at, since our IPO, we have not reached our financial targets regarding revenue and profit, but we have reached our target when it comes to leverage. Regarding the revenue, we've had a CAGR of 3% over this period in the total Handicare group. But as Johan has said before, the accessibility business have been growing with 7% over this period and is our focus area going forward. If we're looking at then Q1 and Q2, we had the COVID-19 effect coming in the end of Q1 and severely hitting us in Q2. And we can see a clear link to where the lockdowns have been, where we have had a reduced revenue. So in Q2 we had a decline of overall organically with 32%, but over the quarter it has improved and we see an improvement as communicated in the Q2 reporting. If we're looking at overall what we've done as well, Johan was talking about the Lift Up program, a very important program to improve our profit and also an important program when it comes to the focus of delivering on our accessibility business going forward. When we started this program, we had to look at a representative base. So we took the second half of 2019 as a starting base as we started to do activities in the first quarter of 2020. And we have done then 8 million of sustained savings and 90% of those is already implemented now by the end of Q2. So 8 million in sustained savings that will have a positive effect on our margins going forward. Last but not least, I talked about our leverage. And leverage has been in line or better than what we have had as a financial target. And this is results of two things. It's about our focusing on the operating cash flow overall, operational cash flow. And by focusing on that, we have been able to have a good operating cash return, but also due to the divestment of those businesses that is not in the focus area. We have a strong financial position, which by end of Q2 we had 55 million in cash and an unutilized facility with another 37 million. So a strong financial position for us for the future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pernilla. Why don't you stay here so
Sure.
maybe we take questions if there are.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Johan
Thank
and
you.
Pernilla. Thanks for the presentation. I'll start with a question regarding the growth we've seen within accessibility and how you've managed to secure really your number one position in core markets and as well as growing very nicely in the US over the last years. I think in recent communication with the market, you've been talking about not only sort of growing in your core markets with market growth, but also, I mean, really continuing to grow a bit faster than that.
Yeah.
What makes you so certain that you will succeed in this field?
Well, you can never be fully certain, of course, but if we look at history, I think we are offering bespoke products, which is, particularly on the curve side, which is a very product in high demand that is quite difficult to manufacture. We are offering that product high quality and with the shortest lead times on the market. And this is due to the high level of automation that we have in our production processes. So this has clearly been a revenue driver in the European markets. On top of that, we had a very successful launch of the so-called 1100 stair lift, which is a straight stair lift, also a very good reception from the market on that. So I would say that is one part of the answer. The other is that we have found a model where we work in a successful way with the dealers so that it makes sense for them to work with us. We don't lock dealers up to us. They are allowed to work with others as well, but we tend to get the bulk of their business because they are profitable working with us, and we kind of have a good win-win model that we have built up over many, many decades of work. So we have a very low churn rate on them. They are happy working with us, and they are essentially the key sales force. So good sales force, good kind of structure in that combined with quick delivery times of a high quality product. That might sound cliche, but that's what it is.
And that's your main route to market at the moment, and will continue to be so going forward as well.
And I think also looking, when we talk about the US market, it's the same thing. We want to replicate this model, and we want to have local production in the US to be able to offer the product on similar terms as we do in Europe today.
And I think a very interesting point here is that you've gained a lot of traction already in the Lift Up program. you communicated to us that 90% is already implemented
Yeah.
of your first part. If I may look into the second part, the profitability side, if you could give us just a few comments on what you've accomplished so far, and how that is going on at the moment.
I mean, just to be clear, we gave that number 8 million euros. That is what you should have in your models when you calculate this. So we're not promising anything above that, but clearly, you know, the ambition is set that first delivering the focus and simplify, and then working further on procurement terms with our suppliers. That's in a very advanced, you know, many of those contracts are already in place. And now we are working then on pricing on certain of our product schemes. So also going well. So I think really we wanted to take ourselves into a position where when we come to Q4, much of this is in place, and then it's all about pushing for increased top line and getting good returns on that top line. So I couldn't be happier. We are exactly where we need to be, but I don't want to kind of oversell it. The 8 million is the 8 million.
But it seems at least as if you're sort of ahead of schedule, or at least in line with what you were hoping for.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think just really lastly from my side, looking at that you in conjunction with the capital markets update that you held in June, you remain with your financial targets that you had since the IPO. Just a question regarding how we should read that now that you're focusing even more so on accessibility and looking at specifically the organic growth target of 4-6% yearly. Given that accessibility now accounts for 70%, should we read it as if that all that growth is coming from that segment, or how do you view patient handling now? We'll have to see what you will do with the segment, obviously, but also vehicle. If you could just give us some comments about that.
In general, you know, when we did this program, we of course made calculations on what effect we were expecting to come out of this. We felt that the financial targets we have in place, and I'm the first one to say that we have not met those targets to date, but that is a target that we have there, and typically, you know, it's a midterm target for the next 2 to 3 years, and we feel that with all the measures we have in place, we keep those targets. I think in a COVID year like right now, I mean, kind of top line is far away. We're working very hard to improve the margins. So I think all in all, the company is in the midterm set to hit those targets. Otherwise, we would have changed them. But, you know, I wouldn't want to speculate exactly on vehicle accessibility or patient handling, but kind of the totality should be able to deliver that in the midterm. Yeah. That's the reason we have those targets still in place.
Yeah, I think with that, I'll thank you guys for joining us today, and see you next time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.